that direction, just because we have a number of people, so there's enough space.
Hi.
Hello.
Great, that's salutation.
Hello.
Hello.
Motion to adjourn.
Probably over in that area. Yeah.
We'll take a look
Yeah,
at
it's
it.
hard to do a live stream and social distance.
But not.
But then, yeah, we'll have you come over here when.
Okay.
And it doesn't look like Ample is here, and maybe that's what it's trouble with.
How do you close?
Diane, phase findings, I agree exactly what they said, we should move ahead with the project. Diane will get up and give me a karate kick. I can tell you, it's a lot of her. No, you know what it is, it's like, Rose did a great job because we just kept hitting him with numbers, and Rick.
I like the instantaneous.
And Rick, of course, had one extra question every 2 minutes, so, you know, he goes, one more question.
I don't know. I like, what was the name of that? It's the picture, perhaps the picture.
Oh, Columbo.
I think you just let the other team get off the tee.
Why doesn't this board get paid?
So what?
Why doesn't this board get paid?
They were supposed to deliver us, and I thought they were.
I'm gonna be shut.
So there's clarity.
Just shut. I've been covering these guys.
So it's 4%.
Yeah.
It's accept.
In Roseman, stumbled across the landscape.
Lance Madison, remember?
Yeah, well, I go back before.
The stuff that we agreed to, or that we said.
Around as long as Joe
It's
Scott.
not anywhere for today's. I have to.
Keep throwing that out there, Joe.
Yeah, I saw him look over. Yeah, just about. I don't know who's been here.
Just keep throwing it out there.
But
Been around as long as Joe.
the idea that numbers should be paid.
Joe's got the hippest gear going today, though.
Yeah.
That's an awesome tie. Your mask matches your tie.
This is my son.
Let me just up the story.
Well,
What I just said to Joe.
I'm gonna go. This just goes on.
you know,
I got good at that last week. I had arbitrations and I had all our fee findings and stuff, and I gotta tell you something, I made a statement and I go,
And there's a spot.
Council.
They can come in, they just don't have to sit over there for now. Yeah, you can come in and there's space over there to sit
Okay.
for now.
Good, sounds good.
Hello.
So I think it would do a lot. So those people know. Get away from So not to let the cat out of the bag.
Well, listen.
There's a
Oh,
pool.
we handled it, other people not so much.
Hey man, how are you?
you?
Ah, thank you for that little stuff.
Get a hold of your man.
Don is working.
You just tap out, Joe, and give him 10%.
It's just, that never wrote that.
Give him the 8.
I know.
And there's a reason.
Yeah, I figured.
It's just a resolution. Reflecting all the things we have agreed to. I mean, so some of the.
Everybody here?
Just missing it.
No, he's walking around over there.
Okay, would you go through it?
Yeah, just double check and make
I know
sure.
I have one.
Rick,
It's what I did.
Yeah,
like the red line.
We're gonna come back
You
in.
only have one copy?
Yeah.
All right, so.
Yeah, keep it.
Okay, do I make a motion to come out of this executive session? Oh,
Oh,
Faye's
you
not.
did.
Everyone's back?
Okay.
We already did it. Okay, we're out of executive session. We didn't do anything we weren't supposed to do, Bill. Brings us to financials, page 11. Rose?
Rick, did you have anything that you wanted to point out, or if not, I can do it?
Yeah, on page
11.
11, if everybody would turn to 11 of 59. Just a reminder, just a reminder that if you look at the percentage of budget line, which is a quick way of just highlighting things that we might be off budget with, we should be at 66.6% of budget, of the annual budget. Where we're under, okay, that's great. Where we're over, means we're over. We've either brought in more money, which is great, or we're spending too much over the budget. So that's a quick way of looking at some items that are over. I also want to mention that the budget line, the third line in the sheet, that's the full year budget, not budget to date. So, for example, administrative staff fees, we're at 93% of the budget, so we're over. The budget for the year was 97,000. We're already at 90,000. So, just as you look at it real quick, Rose and I see we talked about a week and a half ago. We feel we're in good space. We've told this board before that we are going to be over in some items because of the enormous amount of work around Kingstonian and the nursing home project. We'll make some adjustments to the budget, but we're also over in terms of the fees that we either have collected or we will be collecting during the course of this year. So we're in good shape.
So your position would be our budget is elastic. Sometimes it moves in, it comes out.
We're trying to make
It's a guideline.
We're trying to make it less elastic, and so we think we have some suggestions.
You gotta leave a little bit of room.
Yeah.
So good work. Thank you very much.
All right.
Anything else on that, sir?
Just on page 12, just so we have $851,472 in the bank cash on hand, and that's a very notable and important item. Gross?
That's
Okay.
it.
How much in the bank in cash?
In the bank,
850.
on page 12, 850.
It's
851.
a lot of money in the
851.
bank, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lot of money in the bank, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are we looking for other vehicles?
We don't really have any revenue coming in.
Well, let's wait until
We're
we
not
do have
spending 800,000 a month, I can tell you
Hopefully
that.
not, no.
200,000 of that is a CD. And then don't forget we have the PPE money that's coming out.
So how about we take a look at maybe over the next month, what we really feel, what 3 months worth of our expenses are, and see if we can maybe come up with some ideas to do with the balance.
Yeah, we could look at some CDs again.
Yeah, we've had a hard time with CDs because the interest rates are just
So
really
they're not the
bad.
only thing out there.
Right.
Are we allowed to have rental properties or anything like that?
I don't know. Cheryl,
Yes.
That would be something to look into, buying a property with rentals and having our meetings there and using that space for an office.
All right, well, listen, nothing's off the table. Anything else, sir?
That's it.
Make a motion, we accept the finance report as presented.
Second.
Second, anything on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Chair's report, very boring. Couple of meetings with potential clients. Actually, a little bit more discussion about the place down in Milton, Buttermilk Falls. Is that what it is? Butterhill, Butter?
No,
Buttermilk
it's
Falls.
Buttermilk.
Yeah.
What?
Is it butter? No, it's
It's Buttermilk Falls, it's Buttermilk.
Buttermilk Falls.
Yeah.
We have an upcoming meeting with the county. They're looking to potentially reuse some space, maybe possibly put people under one roof, which it's always nice to be asked to be a part of that, but we don't commit to anything until we do. That and, the general phone calls and whatnot, but nothing really exciting. And that's it. Rose? Oh, I'm sorry, does anyone have a question? Good, thank you. Rose?
The M&T Bank transfer, the collateral accounts are finally set up at M&T Bank. I'm just waiting to hear back from them about transferring the funds. The open meetings law, the governor passed an executive order again, which includes the extension for public meetings and hearings to be held remotely for another 30 days until October 4th, if we choose to do that. We need to schedule our finance committee meeting this month so the full board can vote on our 5-year budget in October before it's due to ABO. I sent out an email about doing it Wednesday, September 30th at 9 a.m., but I've not heard back from everyone. Can we nail down that date or a date, please?
It's fine for me.
Thank you. Wednesday the 30th at 9 a.m. Yes, you wrote that, yeah.
She was appointed.
No.
Anything else,
We're not in
Rose?
trouble. No, is that okay with you guys? Is that date okay with everybody?
That's okay.
It's the full board is finance committee. Okay. It's really difficult to get our meeting documents out to the board 1 week ahead of time when the meeting falls so early in the month. Additionally, our November meeting date falls on Veterans Day, and we won't be able to use the county building for our meeting. I'm wondering if the board would be amenable to changing our meeting date to the third Wednesday of the month. So that would be October 21st, November 18th, and December 16th.
I think the last time we went through this question, I think most of the board, or it may have been the old board, was okay with it. I think the issue was council.
Yes,
Or
it was.
as I recall,
Council's
but
okay
it may
with
not be my recollection.
Say it again. Say it.
October 21st, November
November
18th,
18th.
Good.
December 16th.
Why is it so hard to get the documentation out? Is it just
So-
you're waiting on someone, or?
No, like, the meeting today was the 9th, so we had to have everything out by the 7th. We didn't have Loki Brill's report until last night. The bank statements aren't out yet when we have to bank rec to get the financials done.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
listen,
Makes
I
sense.
don't know if we need a motion or we,
Do we, because we're changing the schedule?
I would, if you're gonna change it as a regular thing, I would probably do it as an motion.
Okay.
okay, I need a motion to change.
I'll make a
the-
motion to change.
I need a motion to
Right.
change to the third Wednesday of the month moving forward.
I'll make a motion to change.
Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a
Thank you.
second. Anything else on the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you.
We have 2 more projects that are expiring this year. I've asked Joe Ariel to work on closing them out properly before the year end. Joe, do you have an update on that or any of the other expired projects?
Yeah, so you're right, there's only 2 left, and, actually, Joe, we had discussed how that might be handled. The 2 that are left are basically people that are just non-responsive, and there's
No, there's 2 new ones that I sent you.
Oh, 2 new closeouts, I apologize,
Yeah,
no. I mean, I've got them, obviously we'll pursue them, we'll put together a package. I'm sorry, I thought you were on.
So, and then there are also the old ones like, the Emerson and, I can't think of
I
it.
think Similes and
Yeah.
Lloyd,
There's quite a few of them,
Lloyd
yeah,
Park.
so they're not closed out.
There are a few, like Spotted Dog, MVFCU, Kicks and Hospitality, where we needed to make amendments. The county clerk got back to us and said they didn't like something in our filing. We made those amendments. I understand that they probably went back within the last couple of weeks. And then the 2 remaining, the non-responsive folks, there's a way to approach that. Joe, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Our documents, our position is our documents, if the company is not being responsive, that we can sign as agent for the company for purposes of the terminations. So I believe there's a way to take care of the 2 that have not at all been responsive, and that'll clear that up. I will add though, is that we have researched this issue with a number of our other IDA clients, and the risk of going back in history, the way IDA transactions were structured, the property was conveyed pursuant to a deed into the IDA. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we changed structures and went to a lease form, and it's our view, and a number of IDAs follow the same, at least a number of the clients that we work with follow the same provision, is that if the lease expires, then that's in and of itself a wrap-up, if you will, of our involvement in the transaction, and going through the process of clearing the record, if you will, the county clerk's record, while it's good practice and certainly makes clear what's going on, even the documents filed in the county's clerk's office clearly says that the lease terminates on a certain date. So with respect to our continuing interest in the property, it's no longer there. So that might be something that you want to look at in the future, but we can certainly work with Joe, E, and Rose to clean up the 2 that are non-responsive. And I think there's 1 or 2 that still frankly owe Hodgson Russ some fees. I mean, I have a paralegal work on this. I don't bill my time on it, even though I oversee it, and and then there's the county clerk's file piece. So we can clean up these last two that have been non-responsive, we can do that on your behalf. And then if you wanna look on a going forward basis on how to strategically handle this on the future, we're certainly open to discuss that.
There are only two out of that whole list that we had before.
That are the non-responsive folks, Lloyd Park and Simulates. The others, you're right, there were more, but that was because of glitches at the county clerk's office, and I believe they're in the mail, so to speak.
So Joe, the,
And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and I think you'll agree with me on this, is that the key thing is to have it all done by December 31st.
Yes.
That's the magic date, if you will, with respect to whether they need to appear on your records or not.
so Joe, the two that are being non-responsive, you're gonna instruct the county clerk to dissolve the lien that we have anyway, or you're just gonna leave it there?
Well, it's not a lien, it's just, all it is evidence in the county clerk's office that there was a lease into the IDA and a lease back. So there's no lien. The IDA doesn't technically have a lien on property, it's just a record of the lease in and the lease back. And what we do is we file terminations of those leases.
So that's all you'll be doing is filing a termination,
Exactly.
even though you don't have the cooperation of the
That's
entity?
right.
And the issue there, to be, again, just so we understand, the reason I think that Joe and I have been discussing the possibility of, in these lease transactions, as opposed to the old deed transactions, where you really wanted clean title, it was important, right? Because they naturally expire, the issue is that as Joe said, a paralegal's gonna, if we close them out as agent of this non-responsive applicant, right, there's a fee. I mean, it costs, like, there's filing fees, it costs, I don't know, it's not a ton of money,
Well,
but
it's $300. Yeah, it's $300.
you know, so it's, that's the issue, that's,
So what is it better, I mean, does it fall on the applicant, because when the time comes, if, for whatever's involved, maybe he sells a property, he's gotta have clear title on that at that point, right?
Right, but my position would be that because the filed document says the lease expired on such and such a date, that it is clean title.
Yeah.
So they aren't gonna come back to us.
Okay.
That would be my position.
The upside.
But again, if you want to go the extra step and do the termination, you can do the termination.
Now, the upside of doing it your way, if you feel legally comfortable with it, the upside is that Rose doesn't have to continue to report this to the ABO.
Exactly.
and we don't continue to chase.
Exactly, it's $300 well spent.
Well, no, not exactly, because, well, it's really a question of what position you take, Rick. If the position you take is that if a document hasn't been formally terminated, and you still have to, and therefore you need to report, then you need to report, and it's a pain in the neck, because these are old projects, and they're past their benefits, and, why is the applicant gonna respond to it, right? But and they're not, as Rose says. But if you take the position that, well, if the lease on its face states that it's gone, that it's expired, then it's done, and you don't have to report.
So you need a motion to,
At the end of the day, I mean, let's just, we're spitballing it here, like, I love the term de minimis amount. Well, it's done, it's over, and all it's doing is costing us money. But is there a specific closeout that they're like, hey, I don't care if it takes till the end of time, you need to have this, so,
Well,
please.
part of it is just cost. It's $300 to the county clerk's office, and we can run up a couple grand a time chasing and doing the document.
I know, but what I'm getting at the end of the day is if we take action to sidestep that, because the lease is done, everything is done, are we still responsible, or are
What
we
would
just
the
throwing
ABO
good
say?
money after bad?
Well, the ABO, we've reviewed the ABO rules with respect to whether you can continue to, whether you need to continue to report on a
And their
company or not.
position is?
And our view is that the expiration of the lease and the expiration of all the benefits takes you outside of that, and we don't need to
Do you
report.
think it would be,
So
listen, I believe where you're, listen, trust your judgment and everything else. I don't wanna get caught up in an afterwards thing. Would it be possible or likely for us to get a determination from the ABO just based on this information, say, no, you know, you're well within your rights to stop chasing.
I'm
Then
happy-
everybody gets protected.
I'm happy to do a quick
I'm-
letter to them, sure.
I'm asking you if you think that that would be a good course of action, because they could certainly come back and say, well, you know, that's how you read it, that's not how we read it. And then we're back into it.
Well, I can certainly follow that, that's not.
You know what, if we're gonna create a policy, then, you know, it's dependent on who's here in the next 10 years or whatever, and you have a policy in place, and you know to yourself, okay, well, look, we're not gonna keep it on the sheet, because it just costs us money. If we get a determination from the ABO that we're fine to do that, then.
Rose, does the ABO have a hotline?
Yeah, they prefer email.
And they're pretty good with email.
And they'll
So is that
respond
what,
within a day or
could you
so.
email, I mean, do we have to pay an attorney to do this, or can you
Yes,
call
I
them?
can do it.
So why don't you do that? I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but.
No,
It makes
listen,
sense.
it just makes sense to me. Look, I believe, you know, I think Joe Scott tells the truth more than George Washington did, but at the end of the day, it's the guy up there who's making the determination, so I think we should cover ourselves by taking that extra step.
Yeah, we've got it in the files.
You guys okay with that?
Yeah, because then Rose doesn't have to do any more parish reporting or anything else on these ones that are just late and.
We'll
like
give her
the-
Sundays
the-
off,
The
then,
spotted dog is about 20 years old.
half a day on Sundays.
That's only the morning.
Anything else, Rose?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lisa Berger, the Director of the Department of Economic Development, and I have committed to bi-weekly phone calls to catch each other up on what's going on and or ask for help on advice with what we're doing. She also put me in touch with someone at SUNY New Paltz for trying to find an intern. We scooted in just in time for students that are looking for college credit. Our internship would be worth 3 college credits, and we also offered a $2,000 stipend. I've not heard anything from the school, so it doesn't look like we're going to find an intern for this semester. And I would imagine that it's likely due to COVID, as we need the intern physically in our office to help with cataloging and digitizing.
Rose, how many hours a week is it?
For the college credit, it was 10 to 15 hours a week.
10 to 15,
Good job, Rose.
And then, as Jimmy said, I've had several phone calls with potential projects over the last month. And it's just, I just find it kind of interesting because although it's kind of a strange time for the country, it seems like Ulster County is attracting a lot of people from the city. And I'm hopeful that we're gonna have a lot of solid businesses that'll make a really positive impact on the economy here in our county. And then the last thing that I had was we need to set a sunset date for the grant applications and for submission of receipts. At the audit committee meeting, we discussed ending the program at our November or December board meeting. And maybe we can set, like, the application deadline will be November, and then the receipt submission deadline will be for December. And then as of right now, we would be able to bring the program back if there was a real need until December of 2021. But I just think it's using a lot of staff time, as we've discussed, and it's already been open for 3 months so far now, so it makes sense to put a sunset date on it.
So you want a hard date on closing all applications and action?
Yeah, does that sound okay then?
Yeah.
So my thought would have been if we're gonna move the board meeting, that the hard date would be 1 week, November would be about November 10th for the applications, because I have to have them in time for the board meeting on the 18th. So the hard date for the applications would be November 10th. The hard date for the receipt submission could even be like December 31st or something, because some of these people were approved based on proposals as opposed to actually buying the receipts, or buying the products.
And this is a recommendation from what?
Could we, I mean, what's the downsides of waiting till the end of the year to see?
I just dragging up the staff time, that's all. I was just hoping to get it
We have
wrapped
wiggle
up.
room there, we can, you know.
Could-
we
could go later.
It's slowed down, right? Yeah.
So why don't you make it to the end of November then?
It's- It slowed down, but it's still a lot.
There seems to be a feeling out there that there might come back hell and brimstone here in November.
So maybe wait till the December board
Let's
meeting?
wait.
Look, we have the ability to reopen, we're not putting it to death, but it's good to have some sort of timeline, benchmark, whatever,
You
so.
could extend it too at that time.
Or modified, I mean, it looks like
Just
you're not
please,
gonna.
let's make sure that we put out public
COVID's not
Let me
over
just
for us
put
to
out some
say,
public
No,
notification
it's not.
just
as
leave
to
it
the,
there.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, COVID's not over, okay? For us to go out and say that we have a deadline
Right.
to get, let's just leave it.
Just for
It's certainly
notifications
slowed down from the
purpose,
initial.
let's make sure we put something out
Right, it's just, we've had
through the
people
media.
asking.
that this is where we're at, currently, the program.
Maybe
I don't
for
want
this
anyone to get
period,
caught
there's a
short.
deadline.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
For this
We can always
period.
extend it again, but
Exactly.
people are asking, when do I have to buy this stuff? Now that I've been approved, so I mean, you have to
If they
put
haven't
some
bought
kind of
this
date.
stuff, this is kinda like, I mean,
First, you have to
this
buy
is,
it
they
first.
should have been doing these things, so I agree with Rose, there's gotta be a time where we say to people like, we've given you time. So I think we need to kind of put some kind of something in the ground.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we just say
How
that.
about we
you're
say
going-
tentative,
And then we'll reassess.
unless there's a change, okay?
Frame on this.
But please, let's get notification out to the
But they
public,
haven't
let's get it in
But preliminary.
whatever venues we
They might
use.
wanna restock again though.
Rose, what else?
That's it for me.
They
So
haven't
what's
already
the
decided.
tentative?
Tentative date is December 31st.
Okay, so the applications would then still be seen for the January board meeting?
Yeah. December 31st is good.
Okay.
That's good too.
Make it, if we could, make it an encouraging announcement that we still have money left, we have $200,000 left.
Yeah, we would love to.
And we want more applications. It may take staff time, but that's
No computers.
what we, that's what we.
No
Okay, thank you for your report. Any other questions for Rose? Board? No? That moves us on to committee reports, audit, Dr. D.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the audit committee met on August 24th. We went through a variety of things, a few updates for the board. Our quarterly financial review.
Thank you.
Let me go back to this, I'm sorry. So we reviewed that. Let me report there. The monthly financial reports for the board. We reviewed the agency's accounts receivable. We agreed to send statements to projects that have outstanding annual fees that are due August 31st. Statements were also mailed to projects that had not paid their late reporting fee. The committee agreed also that the accounts receivable report should be included in the financial reports to the full board on a quarterly basis. We thought that would be helpful for the board. We reviewed the RFP for independent auditor since we need to do that. We reviewed the draft, and we also wanted to make a slight amendment to allow submission of electronic proposals. Our old policy said it had to be in paper, so we want to make that change. And we'll send that to council for legal review if it has not already been done. We also reviewed the list of firms that were sent the RFP in 2017. And what we would like to do is send the RFP to those firms listed as well as putting an ad in the paper. Again, checking with council to, in regard to any specific process of sending out the RFP that we need to be aware of. Rose went through the website review in terms of things that we need to be compliant with. And estimated that there's about 31 hours of work to do to post all documents. Assuming that all the information is readily available, some of it is not. So we discussed ways to access that information in order to minimize the amount of time Rose might need to spend by hiring an intern to assist with locating and posting all the necessary documentation, as well as asking for some assistance from the Office of Economic Development. We reviewed a variety of policies that governance sent back over to us. So we looked at the fee schedule guidelines. The governance committee had referred that back to us to change the fee for transfer of ownership on existing projects. And we talked about proposing a change of 0.5 to 1% depending on the project itself and given the details of the contract. We discussed creating a matrix that will outline the year's pilot remaining, and we are going to, we would like to draft changes and present that to the full board for consideration. We were asked to do that.
Excellent.
We looked at the policy respecting uniform criteria for the evaluation of projects. We reviewed the current policy, discussed adding a section for the prevailing wage because of the bill that goes into effect in June 2021. The law has not been finalized, so we will be contacting the state comptroller's office for further clarification, but we're anticipating that. And the thing that I would like to bring for the board for resolution is we talked about the travel and discretionary funds policy, and the board had discussed being able to have Rose, minimize out of pocket directly, and the committee agreed to approve a credit card for Rose with a credit limit of $5,000. And so there is a resolution here for the board today. Page 13, and it would be a resolution looking to approve and amend the travel and discretionary fund policy. And what we would like to do is to add a new subsection D to section 4 of the policy to read as follows. Agency credit card. The agency may apply for and maintain a credit card for the office of the chief executive officer with a limit of $5,000 to be used for incidentals. So that's a resolution for the board.
Well, you want to take a roll call vote on that resolution?
James Mount,
Yes.
Faye Storms,
Yes.
Diane Inen,
Yes.
Michael Ham,
Yes.
Orlando Reese,
Yes.
Daniel Savona,
Yes.
and Richard Jones.
I'll second the resolution, and I was, yes.
Great, thank
Carries.
you.
Not 5,001, Rose, 5,000.
Um,
And the last item from audit is the construction labor monitoring report we received from Brill for August. Innis is 90% compliant this month, and overall, right now it's 73%, slightly less than 75, but they're directionally correct. They're trending in the right direction. So that's our report on
That was an excellent report with a lot of work put into it.
Yes.
Any questions for our chair with audit? No? Thank you very much. I make a motion that we accept the report as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That brings us finance.
Finance, we're having a meeting Wednesday, September 30th at 9 a.m. And that's when I'll be able to report the following meeting.
Thank you, Peg. Appreciate that. A lot of work. Brings us to governance. Chair?
Governance, as of our last committee meeting was on August 4th, 2020. We're looking to schedule another meeting the first week of October. I'll get with Rose, okay? And we'll get a date together. Now things coming out of audit, we can start reviewing policy on a clear basis at this point. There's 6 or 7 we still have to go over that we didn't get to from our last governance meeting. I would also like to note that we have responses. Governance did send out 15 non-compliance letters, and we have responses from all of them. Currently today, I believe in this room we have 4 of our 4?
Three of them are here.
3 are here.
Yes.
Who's not here?
Amber.
Okay.
He had said he would be,
But he's not.
but he's not. No.
We have anyone here from Benedictine?
Yeah.
You're up, my man.
All right, come on up there.
Yes,
Where
please.
you want? Thank you. Got the cops coming to get you?
Yes, got time.
I can get you another chair.
That's okay. Sure, not a problem. Good morning. Dr. Gordon Boyle, Executive Director, Chief Medical Officer, Helpline, Hudson Valley. This is the parent organization for Mary Devon campus, formerly known as Benedictine Hospital. That we come here today to speak about complying with the terms of the agreement that was back in 2006, I believe it was, for that, in which we had a compliance to number of employees on the campus, somewhere around 796 was the number. And are found not to be in compliance with that number based on the roles and the information we submitted to the board back in December. And so, actual update on that. So as you know,
representatives aware, the campuses, Mary's Avenue campus and Broadway campus, formerly Benedictine Hospital and Kingston Hospital, are coming together as one entity. We had a certificate made approved by New York State last year for the formation of that 175-bed hospital that will open in approximately less than 2 years now at this point. About 18 months, we should finish completion of the construction that was funded by a grant from New York State, the amount of $88 million, $74 million of that actually went to, and is going to that construction project. Additionally, we, through WMC Health, are funding an additional $13 million worth of renovations to that campus to provide med-surg units that are single patient rooms. It's really a standard of care now for our community to have single patient rooms. So that project is also going on concurrent with the construction. The issue at hand has to do with the head count of employees as we merge these two campuses. All right, so when we merge those two campuses, and we are in process now with the state of obtaining the licensure for the single campus, which will be the former Benedictine Hospital will be under that license, and we consolidate the payrolls from that campus and the Broadway campus on the Mary's Avenue campus in this next year, with a target completion date by the end of 2021.
When do you feel you'll be in compliance?
When do I think it'll be in compliance?
Yeah.
Next year.
Can you give us a little bit, there's 12 months, give me some sort of different idea? In June of 2021, first quarter, third quarter?
I'd say third quarter.
Where does that put us, council? As far as, with the merging of two groups and, initially there'll always be a loss of employees, but they're a brand new entity now.
Right.
Do we have any latitude as far as?
Yeah, absolutely. It's discretionary.
So
what
Rose,
we-
are they out of compliance because of technical, because of the name? Like if
Because
you
of
add
a
both
merge,
names
right?
together, both entities together, are they in compliance for like?
There would be enough if the two were.
So if you just added them together, so it's a technical non-compliance?
Yeah, based on the fact that they're looking at the prior entity, they'll have where they need to be.
It's just there was, yeah.
Can we
So it's not-
document? Can
it's
we
not
document?
material.
Hold on one second, Rick. Can we document and put a time on that, and you sign off on it? And then if you're not, then you're out of compliance at that point.
And I think we need amended documents ultimately if we could be in touch about your transactional process, because it would result in.
You're the guy with the jurisprudence, so whatever they need to do, they need to do, right?
Yes. No issues.
Sure. Okay, then I'll.
Questions from the rest of the board?
Will there eventually be more jobs, or is it gonna stay the same?
I would think so.
It will be approximately just a little over 1,000, but with that 1,000, in order to align with the rest of the Westchester hospitals, a couple departments, housekeeping and dietary, have been outsourced. So while they are on another employer's payroll, they still work at the hospital.
So let me ask you a quick question, just for my own edification. When you built the new building down in Valhalla, okay, what happened to the employee base? How much did that, was it just a transfer of jobs, or was there a significant amount added?
That I don't know, I couldn't answer that, I don't know. When you talk about the new building, you mean
The big building in Valhalla, where Michael Israel's office is, and.
Correct, yeah, they built the ambulatory care building, I don't have information.
Okay.
I don't know where.
But you create a bigger space, you think you're gonna have more employees, you're creating bigger, that's all.
Okay.
That's the question, so.
But you're
Anyone
you're
else?
keeping the same employees in both campuses that you're joining together? I mean, Benedictine employees will remain, Kingston employees will
There'll be
remain?
one entity, one set of employees on the books for the formerly.
But it will be the same, or will you be changing over and firing people and adding other people?
No, we won't be adding people, okay? I think with some consolidation, as Pat alluded to, there may be, an outsourcing or removal or elimination of some positions. But I don't think there'll be elimination as much as there'll be attrition over time to get to the right size for two buildings and two entities becoming one entity. With that, though, we're constructing a health village, okay, which will be an outpatient, which will have different tenant organizations within that, and that also has an opportunity for job creation. Okay, on
Okay,
the health
so-
village on the Broadway campus. Those plans are being fleshed out as we speak. We don't have firm plans for that at this point.
And that would be how far out into the future
That's
projection?
approximately 2024 to 2025.
Dr. Dave?
So 5 years out.
No, I was just, so there sounds like when you merge, there's always redundancy in certain, operating services. So you guys probably have some estimation on percentage of employees that are redundant right now?
So, before DOH gave the final approval on the CON over at Mary's Avenue, we had to submit a financial plan. So in 2018, we had 1,260 FTEs, and the plan was, by the time we're consolidated and move in, we'd be down to 1,022.
What was on the original pilot program as far as?
726.
Okay, so you're
So they're above
you're
it,
where
yeah.
you need to be.
Yeah,
There may be a
still, yeah,
small
yeah,
cost involved with some new documentation or whatever, but, I wish every one of them was this easy as far as that goes, so. Any other questions from the board? Danny?
So just gonna commit to the end of the third quarter, right, 2021? Okay, great.
Well, Sure. How long is the pilot, how much longer?
They don't have a pilot, they had a bond.
So,
It's November 1st, 2021.
Yeah, I think it's next year, yeah.
The bond expires next year.
There were no New York State benefits here other than, actually not even the mortgage reporting tax, because it's a hospital, they're already exempt from the mortgage reporting tax. They're already exempt from sales tax, they're already exempt from
Okay.
property tax.
You folks have everything you need from us? Happy? Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll be,
Good day.
Thank you.
All right, we now have Holiday Inn Express. Do we have anyone here from Holiday Inn? Good morning, how are you?
How are you?
You shut that door over there. Shut that door. Okay, could you introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. My name is Untitled Express, associate and GM at the property, our art. And we are here for the efficiency in our full-time employees.
Rose?
So they committed to 27 jobs overall, and they were at 73% of their promise as opposed to the 80 that we normally allow.
I can explain.
I'm sure you're gonna give it a shot, I'm all ears.
So I'm director of sales as well as general manager. Comfortably for 101 property, and I've been in the hospitality industry since I was like 15. So it would be 6 to 8 full-timers and then 10 to 20 part-timers, depending on season, since we are seasonal. May through November, typically weekends we sell out. During the week we have corporate business. I've tried Indeed ads, I've tried job fairs, I've tried referrals.
Try New York State unemployment?
I did reach out to them year 2, I believe.
That's right.
Because I spoke with you. I onboard people, they don't show up.
You think maybe you folks overstated the amount of jobs you thought you could provide?
In the beginning, yes, so that was.
How long have you been in the hospitality business?
Me, myself.
Your group?
I'm sorry, sir?
Your group, you, whoever else is involved with you?
Since 2002, sir.
Okay, so we're
But there was-
talking X amount of years, you would think you'd have a pretty good handle on that, wouldn't you?
Yes, at the same time, every area is different.
Because I could tell you, if you pick, it's not that different because there's a shortage of hotel rooms in this area for Northern Dutchess and Ulster counties. And we continually get inundated with requests, whether it's the film commission that says, you know, you need rooms for these people or not. And look, I'm certainly not making any less of where you're coming from, but I find it difficult to believe that you can't find 6 or 7 people to work there.
I honestly, this morning alone, I did, and this is normal, non-COVID, I worked breakfast, front desk, GM, director of revenue, director of sales. So I understand where you're coming from, but I personally haven't had a day off. And it's exhausting. I would love to employ.
Me, Rose.
Yes.
You don't have to get a day off.
Well, that's why I would love to employ local employees. I'm asking and begging, and I see I can't pay people $90,000. I
Well,
wish.
so you're looking at you're talking about jobs with a certain skill set?
No, I take unexperienced as well, and I'm willing to train. I went to college for this. I mean, anybody with any sort of personality. I can teach you this.
I'm out, I'm retiring soon, but no person.
No, but I'm being transparent and honest. I wish that I wasn't in the situation of working 8 jobs a day because my family hates me. So.
So at the same time, when we hire people, they do commit. If they, if they're willing to come, first of all, they do commit. We train them, and they don't show up after the fact.
No
So we
problem.
spend money, time, effort,
I can
everything.
totally sympathize
Thank you.
with you guys are going through 100%.
It's the same
We're
industry.
struggling all
And at the
over
same time,
ourselves.
after we started our project, residence in was built, Holden Express in Sauber is built. So our pie, actually, our total revenue got actually divided. And we are spending, actually, we are fighting for the rooms to get our hotels to fill. We are fighting right now. We are actually the hardest in the industry right now.
If you built another facility in Saugerties, where do you think you were getting people to work there?
No, we aren't the same owners.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that's.
It's
No,
okay,
they're not.
that's Bipin Patel, and he had the flag before us.
Exactly. He was just he just pocketed the.
We're gonna go around the board, I'm sure they have questions, Becky?
Skip me for a minute.
Rick?
What's the occupancy been like, the last 6-7 months?
The occupancy, we had the best first quarter. I had Werewolves Within from the Film Commission. I'm super grateful. We sold out March 10th. And as you know, that's when COVID, they had to wrap up. They were out by March 17th. Their expectant departure was like April. So from March 17th, we saw a decline. In April, he hates me because of the numbers. It was no good. We had to deny people from New York City. It was only essential workers, no leisure business, because we wanted to do the best for our community. Even though I wanted revenue for our business, but I wasn't going to affect Ulster County, and that's exactly what everyone did, is come up, or tried to come up from New York City.
So what are the rules now? Can you?
We can accept, I have a little issue with that. Every traveler is supposed to be quarantining right now, or in quarantine, but I can't enforce that. I'm not a police officer.
So what's your occupancy like?
Right now, last week it was like 70%, we sold out last weekend. Now we're hovering between 30 to 50. So we're getting there. I can't find employees, and I don't know where to go with that. I'd love to be
Has
I'm
it been
actually
that way since you opened?
pretty much hospitality is this way, and Mr. Shaw actually wants me to become area director, and I can't even, he owns another property in Tonawanda, I can't even give my time to another property when I can't step away from the front desk and breakfast.
Right.
So it's personally frustrating for me, but.
And at the same time, sir, I know this is personal, but at the same time, the school started for her kids, and actually she had to scramble back and forth from her house because they cannot log in. So mom has to be there, dad cannot help for whatever reason. So
Can you provide us, like proof also?
No,
That you've been actively pursuing
Yes.
employees, whether it's
Yeah.
through the internet, through the newspaper, that
Indeed,
was-
I have 4 posts right now.
Just, you need to
Yeah.
provide it to us.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Are you paying good rates to your employees?
We are paying above, because I did a market wage. We do pay above the other hotels, and I was also trying to create a position of manager in training. So taking anyone and, giving them the tools to become a manager in the future, so I'm able to grow with the company.
So when you say above market wage, what are you saying?
Well, minimum wage is what, $11.80 right now. I called the other hotels, we at least pay $1 or so or more. So it's $13 to $15. The housekeeping gets tips.
Do you feel that because people were getting the unemployment, they weren't coming in?
Absolutely,
yes,
100.
very
I'm fighting with them right now, and I
Yeah.
feel bad, but I also wasn't able to sit home, you know, and that's,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no, it's true.
yeah. So next year, we're gonna be in the same
And do
situation.
they get any kind of benefits?
Full-time employees do get benefits, we get employee rates also.
How many
So-
openings do you have for full-time?
Honestly, right now, most of our people are full-time, but in hotel, because of occupancy, it's really hard to say you're full-time, you're part-time, you're working 3 days, so this 3-dayer might work 7 next week if they're
So if I was to ask you on paper right now, how many full-time do you have? How many do you have?
full-time.
Yeah.
How many people do we have, or am I looking for?
So
Sorry.
how many people
Oh,
do you,
your
are you paying
FTE, your X
full-time?
amount of hours worked.
12 right now.
12
I have
full-time.
18 employees right now, and I have a couple of girls that will only work 2 days because of childcare, which I'm not gonna deny. And then one person can work 1 day, and I'll take any help at this point.
What did we say, how many jobs? 23?
27. And I mean, I'm from, usually I would like 6 to 8 full-time, and then part-time, I
You're
understand
making
that.
2/3 of your jobs.
Yeah.
Mike?
How long has this been out of compliance, pre-COVID?
I think it's always been,
Yes.
When?
always.
Always?
Yeah.
Okay,
It
always.
started in 2015.
So I think the chair is 100% correct. I think you overinflated your number of FTEs right away. And when I say FTEs, I mean full-time employment. Full-time employment really doesn't account for 19 part-time people. So as I know it, they stopped the COVID 600 pay on September 30th? No, I mean,
July 31st.
July, right, August 1st. So you're still having a problem, there's nobody that wants to work? They're all living high on all the money that they saved?
Apparently, everyone's gonna get back pay with the extra 300 a week, is what I'm being told.
Yeah, well, that's up to Albany yet, right?
And New York State did vote and accepted that, correct?
I'm not doubting that you're out there looking for people. I just think that this board is gonna need assurance that you are looking for people. I find it hard to believe around here right now.
Me too.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's like nobody wants to work all of a sudden.
If they can make more money sitting at home.
Yeah, but they're not making more money sitting at home right now. They're not
And
making,
some of the
they're
lower
making,
paying jobs.
let's put it this way, if people are not making more money right now, sitting at home. There is no more money to be made.
Well, we couldn't foresee a COVID coming.
No.
And, look,
But the fact
I would understand that if we weren't saying that this all happened on March 6th.
clearly,
It happened pre-March 6th.
in your other property, okay, we'll take it. How many job FTEs do you have there?
Full-time right now?
Yeah.
On paper, they were supposed to be about 6 to 8, but right now they're working overtime because there's a lot of
Okay,
people.
with the FTEs figured by hours, I don't care about physical bodies.
Yeah.
Tell me how many FTEs based on hours you have.
12.
And this is in your other facility?
Actually, I just wanted to, if you don't mind, the owner that made these numbers he is,
He's not partners with me anymore?
yeah,
What?
he
Okay, so
lives
you
in
own another
between.
facility.
I'm sorry, sir?
You own another facility.
Yes.
He was a
How many
sergeant.
FTEs do you have in that one?
Over there, we have about 9.
9.
Over there also, nobody wants to work, sir.
Okay.
All the way to Rwanda, actually borders are closed for the Canada.
I'm just trying to get a,
No, I understand, sir.
and it's
He
all in line, but
misjudged
you know what tends
Yeah,
to
he
happen?
misjudged.
And I wouldn't accuse you or anyone else, but they come in here, and my good friend Rick would tell you, we had in our UTEP and our matrix, you would get X amount of points for X amount of jobs. And people tend to overstate the amount of jobs that they could have. Who knew COVID was gonna happen? If it's 1 or 2 jobs at the end of the day, hey, but when it starts to become maybe the hospitality business, and I know you put a lot of time in, maybe it doesn't require 24 jobs. I don't know, but I do know
Not full-time.
that there's a little bit of an issue here, so.
Does it-
Orlando?
No, I think Mike just answered my question, but my biggest question was just in regard to, since it's been out of compliance for 8 years, I mean, it seems like it's not gonna change. So,
Dr. D?
Well, I think you're real spot on about overestimating, because you gave us a range in 2002 of 6 to 8 full-time and 10 to 20 part-time, and you're actually sitting at the end of the other end of the scale, where you have, if you had gone with your lower range, you would have had 16, and you have 18 now, so clearly way over projected,
It's
at the
actually
beginning of this project.
What do you do?
well,
How long is the pilot? 10 years or 15?
Goes to 2026, so it was a 10-year pilot.
10-year pilot.
Danny?
I think I agree. I think they overinflated the numbers. I would just support the chair by showing him how you try to reach out and try to find employment. But I do sympathize with you with the workforce in this county. We do struggle ourselves.
Council, what are our options here?
Well, again, this is discretionary. I'm getting that information. What we want to do is take a good file about the discussions, about the follow-up paperwork. I mean, if, I have seen in other situations where you amend the documents, start the numbers or change the numbers. Again, there's some issues there. That might be something we
I
want.
think that bears a lot of discussing at this point. And given the fact that you've never met it, it's not, no one's looking to throw a rock at you and hit you, but you've never met it. And there's no one here sees you meeting it, so maybe that may be the best course of action, but that requires a lot of discussion on our end. So anything else you'd like to tell us?
Nope, I can send it to Rose, all the information, all the unemployment that I fill out. But that's, yeah,
Again,
a lot of them.
anything pertinent about your hiring practices, what you're trying to do to get business to come in,
Yep.
not business to come in, I'm sorry, employees to come in. And we will try to expedite a decision and we'll get back to you. Anything else? Joe?
The only thing I would say is I think, Mr. Chairman, the board will recall that one of the reasons we took the path of sending out these letters was to show the public, our business partners, and our projects that the idea is to get things right. So for instance, this conversation leads to a discussion of whether this is an aberration related to COVID, is it a matter of exercising discretion on a particular point in time in terms of penalties, et cetera, or what is the real nature of the beast here, and does that require some kind of larger solution? And I would just say that this is exactly, so doing this, and I think it's another
We
step
want to get it
forward.
right. We're looking to get it right.
It's another step forward in our partnership with the projects to get things right.
We're definitely looking to get it right. So we'll get back to you as soon as we can, okay? Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate your candor.
Thank
It's
you.
important to the process.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Greenhouse and Audrey's Farm. Yes, sir.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning. How are you? Your name, sir?
I'm well. Can I take my mask off while I sit?
You don't bother me.
Could make it better.
The guy from Hudson Valley One will write you a nasty letter. He said,
My name is Doug Posey. I'm the owner and operator of the Greenhouses Hotel. We're a non-flag lodging and event space, Southern Ulster, Town of Shawangunk. I can empathize with the group that sat here before me in terms of employment and what it takes in the hospitality space. We are woefully short of our projected FTEs. We're at about 50%. We are a newer project. We're, I think, 3 years into a 15-year IDA. And this discussion really is about 2019. In 2020, you're going to see a drastic drop off. We've been closed most of this year. Most of our business is event-based, so the lodging stays on site along with a business conference, a wedding, pet food conferences, other things like this. But so I'd like to talk about 2021 and 2022 as we talk about how to resolve the FTE shortage. But first, by way of explanation, our response to hiring in Ulster County in the hospitality space is with pay and the quality work environment. So what you'll see is that we have 8 rough numbers for the discussion, 8 FTE where we projected 16. but you'll see where we promised to pay $16 an hour, we're paying 32 on average. So our 8 FTEs are making about 60 grand a year rather than 30. They're buying homes, they're having kids, they've stayed with us from day one to now, and our workforce has slowly grown, but they're quality people, our clients get a quality product, and it's my preference to keep it that way. So there's two things that we could do to sort of remedy our FTE shortage. One, and just for clarity, I want you guys to understand, right? Like, we didn't take the benefit from IDA and put it in our pockets as the owners, right? At 32, my wife and I probably make on average 28. We're not the highest people paid there. We know who's important to our business and where we need quality for our clients, and we try to keep our staff in that way. So what we did with the IDA money is try to create a sustainable business that can grow over time, stay over time, and satisfy our clients so that our business can grow. One way we could remedy it is we could cut our pay to $16 an hour and hire twice as many people to do the job. We would have a worse business.
You better go get a hold of that guy in the hotel.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be looking at that. No one wants to come work for us. We're dealing with how to get people there. At this point, we're dealing with the ability to bring people there, but our demand is soaring. So everything they canceled for us in 2020 is postponed to 2021 at a rate of about 85%. So we did have to give some refunds, but not many. Most people said, keep my deposit, please apply it to as soon as we can come, we'll find another day, we'll come. And that's a result of the way that we hire and the way that we operate. So I personally don't want to cut our pay in half just to see that number move from 8 to 16. What I want to do is continue to grow our business and continue to pay people a living wage to work for us so that they can stay and be stable and give a wonderful product to our clients who will continue to come back.
How many FTEs? I'm sorry, did I miss that?
8, you said?
We have 8, we projected 16.
And this is what you're here, what?
What they project,
And you're
17.
And you're running events with 8 employees?
Yeah, it's FTE.
Lodging,
So we had 51 people.
receptions, kitchen, all with just 8 employees?
No, again, those are FTE. Right, so, but what that statement means, right, like I'm trying to package it into an analog statement. What that means is when people come in to work our event, we pay our bartenders $35 an hour plus tips, right? Our bartenders are buying homes and having kids. The same with our chefs, the same. So we don't have $17 an hour chefs. We don't have $15 an hour dishwashers. Our dishwasher is our facilities manager who waters the plants in our greenhouse. He opens up the desk when our guests need ice in the middle of the night.
You're paying your dishwashers how much?
Phil makes $28 an hour, and during events we have
And this is sustainable?
a gratuity that we pay. So we pay him $32 an hour during events, whether our clients tip
So
him
how
or
long were you in compliance?
we were, except that we had this number in the ramp up. So in 2018, I believe the projection was 8, and for 2019, the projection was 16. So in 2018, I don't know what we had in 2018. I'd have to look back at our report.
I guess what I'm getting at,
Those
sir,
wages
is
don't
this another one of these?
Do the wages don't match? So at 8 FTE, our payroll's roughly
Well, you have that for
$476,000.
unskilled people made an average of $19 an hour.
On the payroll report that I sent is what I'm talking about.
Right, this is the payroll, this is the questionnaire that you filled out.
I apologize for that. If you look at the data sheet, like our ADP payroll report that came with it, the total paid is $476,000.
Yes, it is.
So for 8 FTE, if you do the math, that's $60,000.
That's on an average, but you're really piecemealing that work out.
Well, the truth is that we operate the same way as the Holiday Inn operates. So my managers, I have a guest services manager, a facilities manager who doubles as my dishwasher so that I can give them full-time work. I have myself, I have a kitchen manager, I have a head chef, I have a breakfast chef who comes in the morning. I do have 6 or 7 people who are there full-time. I probably have 2 FTEs that are made up of about 40 people who come in.
That's what I was driving at here. Yeah, so your chef, we'll take for example, is he on a 40-hour week, 35-hour week?
Yes.
Okay, so he's at $32 an hour for 35 hours a week.
Correct. My chef,
Okay,
my chef
that's
name
where
is
I'd like
Scott
a little
Dorsey.
clarity. I was getting
And
lost
I
here.
paid him just shy of $60,000 in
Okay.
2019.
Now, let me, one other question before you go into yours, Rick. My question is, let's say that the heavens open up, everything goes away, you're ready to hire again.
I'm ready to hire now.
At this point, do you take like your chef, for example, that's making that $30-some an hour, you cut his pay now?
No. Absolutely not. I'll tell you what's going on with my business and where I see us under my plan meeting with our job proposal. So we also raised the financing, developed the property, and now we operate it, right? But we just do it top to bottom. So our group has actually developed another 20-unit property on 24 acres in the county of Ulster on 30 off of 32. It's on Old Mill, just before the town of Newburgh, still in Ulster County. We will do the same type of operation there, and that operation on the development side will contract to the greenhouses, so we'll begin to have our employees do off-site catering as well, if that makes sense. So we've got that project, and I'm in a lease negotiation with an unsaid whiskey distillery who's not currently using some facilities that operate in the way that we do. And if we get that lease, the greenhouses will also contract to do the hospitality service there. And so my one chef who makes $60,000 will be paired with 2 more chefs at 2 other locations. And so I think over the next 24 months, I'll meet our 16 projected FTEs at this rate on average of $32 per hour. That's my plan. And like I said, I could slash the wages and try to jam bodies in there, and I'm going to be sitting here telling you exactly what they're telling me. I can't keep anybody. Nobody wants to come to work for me. People want to come to work for $50,000, $60,000 a year. They do, right? No one wants to come to work in hospitality during COVID for $28,000.
So I'm still confused. The original numbers that were promised to be at in 2019 was 17. That's what they were supposed to be at. 17 FTEs. That true, Rose?
Yes.
Okay. You're at 8.
Correct.
And for that, you got a 15-year pilot.
Correct.
Okay. So you're over the threshold between a 10-year pilot and a 15-year pilot using the number of 17. If the number is going to stay at 8, you're only at a 10-year pilot.
I'm not sure I follow that.
So the pilot was based upon the points that you got in terms of the pilot when we did the calculation way back when.
Mm-hmm.
You had 17 people that you projected. That got you X number of points, which threw you into the category of getting you the 15. I believe that's the case. Getting you the 15-year pilot. If you're only going to have 8 FTEs from memory, I think you fall back into, a 10-year pilot. If you're only going to have 8 FTEs.
So my response
So
to
you're
that is
telling us
that we're not only going to have 8.
So in 2 years, you're going to get up to how many FTEs?
I've got 2 projects, one the size of the greenhouses right now, and one that's probably 65% in terms of size.
So how many FTEs will you be at with those extra projects?
I would
But those
be,
projects aren't part of this pilot.
Well, he's going to be servicing.
the
this
projects
Yeah,
are
but again, those
insofar as.
projects aren't part of this pilot.
Right.
His
The
other, your
pilot-
other, let me finish.
Just,
Your other, now my name's Jim, your name is, other endeavors that you have, you could start a restaurant in California and say, I'm gonna have one centralized chef and he's gonna set the menu. Doesn't mean that he works in New York. So your contention that your other projects are going to help meet, it doesn't hold water unless we go back to are they working hours in that facility?
Yes.
You have the floor, please.
So, just for an explanation about the way our business works. So, those projects, if I have a business conference in Plattekill on Friday and Saturday of this week, and I have a wedding at the greenhouses facility on Friday and Saturday this week. Currently, where we only have the wedding at the greenhouses, our kitchen runs about 2 days a week. So that kitchen has excess commissary capacity. And so that kitchen would then pick up 2 more days a week in order to do the food prep for this event as well, right? And if there's this facility as well, now our kitchen's gonna run 6 days a week instead of 2 days a week.
I understand all that. What I'm trying to get back across to you is that's the unknown for us when you came here initially. We don't know what your plans were moving forward. If there was discussion at that point that there was going to be rotating employees and the FTEs would be satisfied based on the amount of hours worked, because that's what I look at. I look at the wages are whatever the market bears, it bears, but we're basing your FTEs on the amount of hours worked. So if you kept rolling them round and round and round, and they kept passing through, then that's fine. But we don't know that initially.
Correct, and initially that wasn't our plan. Our response so our payroll need in terms of our pro forma is where we got our number for FTE. And so at $16 an hour, which you'll see we also signed up for, right? That was our projection. So if our payroll need is roughly $475,000, that's exactly where we are right now. That's where we projected to do the hospitality business.
Again, about payroll needs. I
So-
know about hours
So
worked,
just one
which
step past
qualifies
that.
an FTE, correct?
Just one step past that. So if we take that payroll need and we pay each individual person half of what we're paying them right now, we would be in compliance with our promise at the $16 an hour pay, and we would be in compliance with our FTE currently.
I think with the, if I may,
Please, Joe.
I think where the chair is going, and I'm very hesitant to put words in the chair's mouth, from personal experience, is that, was the original 17
Based on.
it was based on your original estimate of what you would need at the lower wage scale.
Yes.
So the situation you're in is that you've discovered that, at least based on the lower workload that you have because of COVID.
It's not a low workload.
Well, but see,
I feel it's just-
what we're trying to understand is, where'd the 17 come from? We're happy with the 60,000.
Right.
We're happy with the 55,000. But we're trying to understand where the 17 came from.
The 17 is worked backwards from a pro forma that says that your payroll cost will be $475,000. And if you work that backwards at what we thought would be $16 an hour, you end up with twice as many people working.
So it was an original estimate based
Sure.
on what your thought was with respect to operations and
Correct.
what you were going to be paying people.
I
at
could
that
achieve
time.
that. That's what I'm here to say, is I believe that my business has enough demand currently, without the growth, to satisfy our projected FTE based on our payroll spend. So for my chef, who currently works for the one wedding at the greenhouses, I could hire 2 chefs and pay each of them $16 an hour instead of my one chef that makes $32 quality of employee that I have.
I'm looking at the payroll journal, more than half of these people make $12, $13, and $15 an hour.
I'm talking about it's like, you have to use, if you use my hours paid to the 51 people or so that were on my payroll, and you come with a number of 8, in order to continue the discussion, I have to continue to analyze, or else we're gonna lose track of what we're talking about. Does that make sense? Like, if we're talking about 8 FTE, but my payroll journal has 51 people on it,
Can I ask, so when you first
Doesn't
came
make
and you
sense.
projected FTEs, you thought you were gonna pay a chef that you needed the quality of preparation, et cetera, you were gonna pay a chef $16 an hour when you came to us? And you thought everybody was gonna make the same amount?
no, in terms of chefs, like paying them $18 an hour is a going
came
rate
with,
for a
but I'm
restaurant
just
chef.
trying to understand, when you initially came to us, it was 17 FTEs, and I see what you did, but if you just use what you just said was, you just figured you were gonna pay everyone $16 an hour, but you realized they need to pay people more, but how,
I realized that I
did you
could
really,
pay people more.
did you really think you were gonna pay a chef $16 an hour when you originally came?
I'm a
just trying
business
to
partner in
understand.
the other project in Plattekill who's paying a chef $16 an hour right now. I'm like, yes, that's what
Was
people
that
need in
because
the
you
restaurant.
said
You can pay the line
business
cook
model.
$16 now, you're not paying the chef $16.
That's my
Yeah,
apologies.
like-
I write the recipes. I'm the head chef there, so you'll have to forgive my nomenclature. The people who would cook for my weddings, if you go to a wedding right now, the people cooking for you are probably making $16 to $18 an hour. You would argue with this?
What are they called, line cooks?
Well,
For
yeah,
sous chefs.
your head chef, you're not paying 16.
No, I'm
Line cooks,
forgive me,
prep
I'm the
guys,
head
you're paying
chef.
16.
I write the recipes. I come in, I taste the sauces. I stand and send the food. I do expo from the back. So my nomenclature, forgive me. The person cooking in my facility, I could have 2 people cook and do what I have one person doing now, and I could pay them each half the amount I pay the one person that I pay now. And so my statement to this board is, and if that's the route that we have to take to get there, then I'll use the growth of my business to go back and try to increase the wages to get to the quality that I want for my operation. But my statement here is that if you, and this is to Rose's point on the payroll journal, if I spend $475,000 in payroll and I come up with 8 FTE, I could, and that number for 8 FTE, if you go back and you say 35 hours per week, 52 weeks per year, you come up with 8 people make 60,000. If you do the same numbers, you could say 16 people.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
Doug,
mean,
I just want to say something. I think that the whole purpose of the IDA, what we try to do is create sustainable jobs for people. So when we're looking at those FTEs and we're looking at 17, we're looking at 17 sustainable jobs. So basically you're saying there's 8 very good jobs and the rest are piecemealed out and people can't live on those particular ones.
That's what the definition in hospitality says, that those are sustainable jobs. Right
Well,
now,
for
that's,
the
I don't
definition
believe that
in
to be true. in
Well, this is
hospitality.
the IDA, we're not hospitality. So what I'm trying to say is what you put in the application was for 17 sustainable jobs. That's what we're looking at, that's what we base things on. So
I put in
we're
application
getting a
17.
different
I'm
opinion
sorry to
about
cut you off, but my apologies.
I'm just saying.
But in the application, it says that I would pay 80% of my staff on average $16 an hour. So for you to say that that's not what you were looking for, seems.
We're looking for jobs.
Yeah, correct, but she's
But let
talking
me ask you a
about.
question, this all said and done, you and your wife have a business that you think there's gonna be, just throwing numbers.
Yeah, but
And you feel as though it's gonna be, I'm gonna have 15 FTEs. We'll just use that. We'll say 40 hours a week, so 600 hours a week, we'll say.
Okay.
All due respect, your payroll journal doesn't mean a whole lot to me because your application is about job creation, FTEs. And I mean, you can structure it whatever way you want. You can control that, you know,
Absolutely.
by virtue of paying people different wages and hit that target point.
Absolutely.
There's a fella here that I know in this room, probably lost millions of dollars in that hospitality business and weddings and everything else. But at the end of the day, it's all about FTEs, okay? So how do we get to where we need to get to? Because you're saying that your business hasn't suffered. Well, if your business hasn't
No, that's not
suffered,
what I'm saying at all. That's not what
okay,
I'm saying
I
at
thought
all.
you said to me that it's okay with what you have. And if it's okay with what you have,
Can we get a little context on that statement?
well, let me
in
finish
terms of
my
what's
thought
okay
and then we
with
can
what?
have all the context because we're both trying to get to the same place.
Absolutely.
We're not here to be punitive, I'm telling you that right now.
No, I want to get to
But
the.
what you
FTE
signed on to and what we gave you to sign on to,
Mhm.
clearly we're having a hard time getting common ground there. Ours is about jobs created.
Okay, and that's where I think I'm having a misunderstanding, so my
Okay.
apologies to this board.
Well, then you know what, maybe part of that is our fault. We've spoken about creating mentors for people.
Mhm.
But you don't go in and sign a contract without knowing what it's all about.
Oh, no,
So let's see if we can get to something that's
got to that
amenable
contract. So I'm
for
ready
everyone.
to create an agreement with this board. I came to try
Well,
to.
we already
open
created
dialogue.
an agreement with this board.
No, I apologize. I subsequent agreement in order to get into compliance
Mr.
with the
Chairman,
agreement that we made.
Please.
So, you know, one of the, back to the point I made after the last application, this may be a situation where if you are essentially suggesting a different business model, that you are suggesting to the board, than you came in with at the time of the original approval, and you are suggesting to the board that it's a preferable model, not just for your business, but potentially even for the county of Ulster. So this may be a situation where, again, either the board can decide, no, we wanna hold this business to the job numbers, and your pro forma has to be molded to get there, or it might be a situation where this is a.
We can modify.
Modify the agreement.
Would you be open and amenable to modifying your pilot?
I would have to look at what that means. I'm open to
Well,
anything that
here's
gets
the
us
thing
in
right now.
agreement. Me and this
We hold the
board.
leverage at this point.
Absolutely do.
And we're trying not to be punitive. So I think, you know, not to be flip with you, the correct answer would be is, yes, I'd be open to discussion and see if we can find a happy medium, which will allow you to continue your business and may it be successful, and will allow us not to be punitive to you and hold a sword over.
Can I make just one statement
No,
here?
no, I'm asking you a question, yes or no?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
open to discussion with this
All
board.
right, well, then you can have that discussion with the CEO and the lawyer, because we've already decided at this point that we may or may not modify, so let's see what the discussion brings.
Can I just make one statement? I
Please.
just want to try to add some clarity. I feel like I've not delivered a clear message of what I was trying
Do
to.
you think my message is clear?
Your message is more than clear, 100% crystal clear. So I can say right now that I came in my mind with two distinct options for my business going forward in terms of getting in compliance with this board. One is I can go after that FTE number, and I can go after that number and meet all the promises that I made in the current agreement, which was what gave me pause to your last question. I can do that. I think it'll take me until the end of 2021. I can get to 17.
Would that be successful for you?
I
If you
don't
had to
think
do
that is
that
the
with
best
your
option.
model, Doug, would that be successful for you, or modifying your current pilot to give you a little bit more breathing room, okay? And operate within your business model? Would that,
Absolutely. That would be my.
that's what I'm talking about when I say modifying the system.
I heard modifying punitive, and you'll forgive me.
No,
We don't want to be.
I don't want to be on a record committing to.
No, it sounds like you've got a business model that's really.
Bill's got you on the
different
record.
And you're trying to take a
You're paying
square and
people
put
good
it into
money.
a circle, and we're trying
Okay.
to create a design.
I want to go around the board now. Would people be, are we open to having this applicant in to modify,
Yeah.
so it's not punitive?
I appreciate it.
Okay. Faye?
Yes,
Rick?
Yep.
Michael?
Yes.
Orlando? Dr. D?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Council, CEO, it all good?
Yes.
Rose?
I'll work with Rose and.
Good.
About Joe.
There may be, okay, just so it's not a shock, based on the time that's involved, there may be a little bit more of a cost based on
I
the
can
things we
understand.
have to do.
I can understand.
Are you walking away from here satisfied that there's a little daylight at the end of the tunnel?
I feel good that we can come to a good resolution.
I
for the
appreciate
town.
your
I get you put these numbers out, but we wanna see these numbers. I believe what you're trying to say is based on these numbers, you're gonna spend X a year. So if you can spend an X, that same amount with less people, they're gonna make more. That was the angle.
Maybe your thing is 10
I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we have to modify that number. Understand, or you're gonna
Take it down.
continue to come up
Sure.
underperforming.
Right.
That was my other point there, is that our business is also growing. So we will meet at the numbers that we're paying people now. We will get to 17. We will.
How do you get your doorman to do dishes? I still can't figure out. I'll talk about that. That's a whole other
They're family.
conversation.
He's a doorman as well.
Yeah.
Thank you,
They
sir.
want to do whatever the clients need because they feel like we're all one family, because that's what we do. We share the income with them, we share them.
We are trying to, create a culture here
I understand.
that lets people know that we're willing to work with them and not
I
beat
appreciate
them
it.
up. So,
Thank you.
thank you for
Thank
your
you,
time.
Doug. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Old business, status of pending projects.
There was one more,
That's what I was
it's
gonna
not
say.
on.
How do you get your phone, gotta do that, one addition?
Okay.
The Kinsley isn't on here, I was checking to see if Charlie had come back in via Zoom. But Kinsley is also underperforming for employment because they're still under construction. So Charlie Blakeman was supposed to come via Zoom today, and he's not.
One other question before we move on to the next item. Amthor Welding was supposed to be present today?
Yes, he said he was.
Okay, did they send over any kind of a message why
No.
they wouldn't be here? Just didn't come.
Just didn't come again.
Real quick, just to bring the board up to speed on Amthor, how long has Amthor been out of compliance?
I think almost the whole time.
Okay.
And how long has that been?
How long has that been?
Was it 2013? I'll pull it up now, hold on.
13?
We can't call back.
No, there's a
It's
bond issue there.
Got it.
It's a bond, it's not a pilot.
We can call the bond.
We-
Council?
Council said we could not, right?
I can look at that. I mean, you can't claw back on the difference, on the interest rate difference. I thought that was the question that was
Correct.
posed to me. But I can look to see if. we can-
But actually, Joe, if we pull the bond, they just go back on tax roll.
Well, they're on the tax.
They're on
roll.
tax,
Right.
right,
They're getting a cut rate on the.
they get the cut,
Right,
right.
because this is gonna go until
Calling the
2029.
bond, they don't.
Right.
2029?
So there's no something to do.
What is it due?
I-
2029.
Are we good?
So they haven't been in compliance.
If there's no penalty, then they don't care.
Yeah.
So then council's gonna look to see if we can call the bond?
Yeah,
I'll look at that.
I mean, my God.
Status of pending projects.
So this is on page 18 of your packet. There's two very familiar projects there. One because there's been no change in quite a long time, which is Wildberry. There is no change. And Kingstonian, as you know, is an application under consideration. Based on today's agenda, so I have to keep into that. That's what I got.
And then I will, if there's no issues, you guys don't wanna hang around another 5-6 hours, do you?
Yeah.
Do we have the representatives of the Kingstonian project up, please?
Are they here?
I don't know if they're here. They said there was downstairs with a rifle.
So we need more chairs up here.
Oh, they won't go over there.
Bring in more chairs.
Sure. Is that how many do we need?
I would like to read one chair. No, I'm.
Okay, so, correct.
I'll bring this one back.
Got enough?
When the music stops, everybody sit down. Okay. Kingstonian. Please screen. You have anything you'd like to say?
Yes, we met twice on the pre-screen. The last opportunity we had to meet with the applicant was on August 27th. And the pre-screen committee has met with them, and we've agreed to present to the board a pilot structure preliminary approval. Joe, I'd like to ask council to go into more detail on what that preliminary structure approval is.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. If you go to page 49 of the materials, and
You
before I
guys
go,
have this up there?
We received it already, but we don't have it.
Oh, if you can.
Committed it to memory, huh?
Chair, if I may, before we go into this resolution, there are actually two resolutions for consideration by the board today. The first is the preliminary approval resolution with respect to the pilot structure, and then there is the public hearing resolution. So the first resolution appears on page 49, and what I'll do with your
Absolutely.
approval, Chair, is I'll skip over the whereas paragraphs on page 1 and 2, which basically just give a history of the project, and then I'll go right to the operative terms of the resolution, which appear on page 3 of the resolution, but it's page 51 of 59 of the handout. So if you look at section 2 first, if you don't mind, section 2 first, which indicates what the IDA is doing with respect to this resolution. It's only limited to the pilot structure, our consideration here. It's limited to the pilot structure, and the pilot structure is what's attached as Schedule A to the resolution, and it's the result of the discussions, the preliminary discussions held at the 2 pre-screening meetings, as reported by Mr. Ham. Now, as clearly indicated in section 2, that preliminary approval is subject to a number of conditions, and those conditions are described in section 3 in items A through F. And I'll review them in some detail. In subclause A, it's broken up into two subclauses. One is the compliance with seeker, and we understand that the project has received its seeker approval. And the second is the holding of the public hearing that the IDA is going to presumably consider at the second resolution for this morning's meeting. The next condition is condition B, which is agreement between the agency and the company with respect to the form and the substance of the IDA transaction documents. As we've discussed, this transaction is going to be structured as an IDA straight lease transaction. We'll take an interest in the property, lease it back. There'll be a number of documents entered into in connection with that straight lease transaction, including our Uniform Agency Project Agreement, which is our clawback agreement, and a pilot agreement. So all of this action here today is subject to the finalization and approval of those documents. Item C, condition C, is agreement between the company and the agency with respect to the payment of various closing costs, including the administrative fee of the IDA. So we are not closing, we're not offering final approval to anything until the issue with respect to fees is resolved. Item D, with respect to the description of, or the listing of conditions, is satisfaction of the requirements of the agency's UTEP. And as we've discussed a number of times with respect to this matter, this is a pilot deviation. In order for the IDA to move forward, we need approval of the county, the city, and the city school district with respect to the terms of the pilot agreement, including the pilot structure. Item E is satisfaction of the requirements of the agency's housing policy. Again, as we've discussed in the past, the IDA has a housing policy. It deals with, among other things, the provision of housing and housing components in a project. And there is a provision in that housing policy which allows us to do housing projects or projects that have a component involving housing, as long as approval is granted by the municipalities and the school district that the project is located in. So we need to satisfy that condition also. And then, as per my normal practice, Chair, I have a blank provision there to encourage discussion among the board as we review the application. So with that as background discussion, I'll pass it back to you, Chair.
Okay, quickly, your understanding, and this is what your understanding of what's on there. I'd like to move for a roll call vote.
Was one thing an updated term sheet though we want to add to that blank?
You need that in addition to the application?
It's in the back.
Okay, I know that, but, okay, this is the updated one.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
more the
Yes, this is
structure
the
of the
updated
pilot.
application.
Got it,
And I
okay,
believe all that
Yeah.
is included. It may not be specific to it, but it's included.
got it.
We'll make a motion.
So I'm doing a roll call vote, that's on the floor.
So,
I'm sorry, Rick, did you have a question?
I just think the applicant delivered terms of a term sheet that we had requested from the pre-screen meeting, just delivered it today. And I think some of the discussion that had occurred at a different time in this meeting might have be because there were 3 members who weren't part of all the pre-screens where a lot of this was discussed. So I don't know if it's appropriate, counsel, but this pre-screen document, and I haven't read through it, just got it today, might answer a lot of questions and kind of sets out some of the terms and conditions that you'll put into the straight lease agreement.
But I think, Rick,
So-
can I just interject? This is about the structure of the pilot. Not, you know, that's all gonna be included. This is just based on the basic structure of the pilot.
So
Everything else is gonna get filled in.
that's why I'm asking for clarification.
That's, I guess, am I on the right?
There's
Yeah,
a
there we
line
go.
here for other conditions, and I'm just suggesting that
Discretionary.
this be included in the conditions, this document, because it defines what is going to go into the structure of the pilot as
Is it in there
defined.
under agency transaction documents?
So the only issue with that, Mr. Jones, is that no one has looked at that.
Right.
And so adding it as a condition, the satisfaction of that term sheet
Well, if you put
to
it in
this
that
resolution may be problematic.
So so I think I'm okay with doing the preliminary too, let's set that out. What I heard from some of the members earlier was, they don't have the benefit of all the details that went through the pre-screen. So what's the vehicle for ensuring that those members that were not part of the pre-screen meeting, what's the vehicle for making sure that those members understand all components of the agreement with the applicant?
The application is updated.
Well,
But when do we get to discuss that
Okay, well,
when do we get to discuss that in an open board
Diane,
meeting?
you had something you'd like to add?
Well, and just a little, just to clarify, my understanding what we're doing roll call for right now is just the basic structure in section 3 with none of the terms or agreements, that we're not agreeing on that, it's just the structure itself with these
And I believe-
conditions that we will work out.
I believe section F
Yeah.
would satisfy what you're looking for, because the following additional conditions, which is blank, which we can fill in.
Right,
Okay?
right.
That would
I
satisfy
have
it?
a question.
Okay, can we proceed
That
with the
makes
roll
sense.
call vote?
Yeah, you need to have an official motion for this.
I need a motion to
I'll
have
make
a
a
roll
motion,
call.
have a roll call.
I'll second it. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Please proceed.
James Duncan?
Yes.
Faye Storm?
Yes.
Diane Inen?
Yes,
Michael Ham?
Yes.
Orlando Reese?
Yes.
Daniel Savona?
Yes.
Richard Jones?
Yes.
Resolution was accepted and adopted. The next resolution, Chair? Council?
Thank you, Chair. The second resolution is the public hearing resolution. And again, this resolution does not commit the IDA to granting final approval to the project. What this does is authorize staff and council to arrange for the holding of a public hearing. We'll take those administrative steps. So it's a part of the overall process with respect to the consideration of the project. And with that, I'll open up for any comments or questions, Chair.
Are you understanding of what this is all about? Yes. Okay, gonna go around to the board. Faye?
Yes.
No, I mean, do you have any,
Oh.
anything you'd like to add?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yeah,
No, I'm fine.
Okay, Rick?
Thank you.
I'm fine. Michael?
I'm good.
Orlando?
I'm good.
Dr. D? Danny? I'm good, thank you. All right. All right, and then I need a motion to,
I'll make a
move
motion.
forward, hold a public hearing.
Roll
Make-
call.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
second.
I have a second, any question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, roll call,
James Malcolm?
Steve, yes?
Faye Storm?
Yes. Diane Inen?
Yes,
Michael Ham?
Yes.
Orlando Reese?
Yes.
Daniel Savona?
Yes.
Richard Jones?
We adopt?
It has to be different. There you go. There you go. Celebrate difference. We like that.
I wouldn't say off topic, because it's all part of topic. How are you progressing with the taxing entities?
I think we're doing pretty well. As you know, we got the approval from the city of Kingston. This is a slightly updated pilot structure with higher taxes. So I think we're still fine with their approval. But now that we have this, we have a date with Ulster County already for a vote. And then we
When's your Ulster County vote?
Next month.
October.
October meeting, exactly. And then we are, now that we have this, we can go back to the school, which has defined who their team is going to be more specifically. And that's our job this afternoon, is to set that meeting up. And
Well, you say their team, do they, is it
set
kind
up
of like our
sub-
pre-screen, then they move back to the full board?
They went to a subcommittee.
But then they come back to the full board?
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah, we've done a number of meetings with them, but they just changed who they want to be on that subcommittee.
You know, I'd just like to say, and I hope we're following suit, Mike Ham, his committee with Danny Savona, Diane, everybody who's involved in the pre-screen. Look,
It's Rick.
Rick, I would.
Not that.
oh, I'm sorry, Orlando. I have to-
No, it's okay.
We cannot
Rick
forget.
and I switched
We
places.
started with Orlando and then we switched over.
We switched to Rick.
we just made it hurt a little bit. No, listen, we have a mission to get it right here. Whatever the project is, whoever the developers are, it doesn't change. And, you know, negotiations are never easy. Everybody wants to come out with 100% of what they're looking for, but the secret to it is, you know, not to come out where you feel as though you can't live with it. So, you know, hopefully you're successful moving down the line with the rest of it. Your term sheets, I hope you have that from my friend over there.
I'm gonna give it to Rose, and she can get it out to
Either that or I'm gonna give them your phone numbers and,
Jim,
but again,
we're very appreciative of the process. We appreciate working with you folks. We've had 2 excellent meetings with the pre-screening, both pre-screenings. And to Rick's point earlier, we're open to continuing to work with the individuals that are not in those meetings and answer any questions
yeah,
that
I
are
think
available. And we
maybe
thank all you guys for work, staff, and
sometimes, you know, with the pre-screen, people might think it, you know, it lengthens the process, but I think in the long run,
work very well.
it kind of shortens the process
Sure.
because you know exactly where you're at. We tell you what we think you need, and we get a sense of, you know, what issues you may have and you know, how we can work together. So I think I'm proud to be a part of a board that changes the culture a little bit. And thank you very much. Do you have anything else you'd like to speak to us on?
Thank you for all your help.
So you better not tell that guy what you pay your guys.
Well, we can talk about that offline.
We found out some of those numbers didn't work.
Go ahead. I was looking at the bill.
We have some questions?
Yeah. Diane, do you wanna?
No, go ahead.
Um, Just confirm for me, the parking spots that we talked about at length last time.
Sure.
Who's paying what? You know, the low to moderate income folks and the rest of them, so 141 less 14. Is everybody paying the same amount on a monthly basis, annual basis? And what is it going to cost?
Okay, so the parking spot counts, I'll go over first, and then we'll talk about who's paying what, because I think there's 2 different questions that you probably want to vote in. So we're building a total of 420 spots.
Could you take your mask off if you don't mind? Sorry with me if it's already.
Yeah.
Fine with me.
I can.
So we're building 420 total parking spots. We're reserving 1 parking spot per dwelling unit. So there's 129 market rate apartments that will be paying approximately $100 per month per space to park. When I say approximately, it's going to be $100 a month. There are 14 affordable leases that we're going to have. I can't call them affordable units because the units may change. We're building every unit the same way, to the same standard. So there'll be 14 affordable tenants that will pay half of that amount if they choose to take a spot. They're not required to. So we're reserving the 129 plus the 14. All the remaining spaces will be available for monthly or hourly parking. And those rates will be $1.50 an hour for hourly parking and $60 a month for monthly parking.
And how many tenants do you expect to have in the hotel that might be possibly using those spaces?
So there's a total of 32 hotel rooms. The hotel parking is planned to either be hourly, if they choose to self-park, or valet. The beauty of doing it valet, which is our preference, is that we can either put them in the garage if there's space, or we can go use the plaza across the street, use the surplus parking that Brad's family has,
Okay,
that
so that
may or may not.
That's for the hotel.
For the hotel.
Okay, and
And
then
for the employees as well.
and for the employees, so you put aside 129 parking spaces for the tenants,
Correct. The residential tenants,
the residential tenants. How many residential tenants can you accommodate?
129 units.
Oh, only 129?
There's there's 129 apartments.
Oh.
So the number of people that live in each apartment will vary if you're single or a
So you
couple
could
or
have
a
up
family.
to 300 people having cars using those spaces.
We
So
could.
basically, it would be a parking garage mostly for the tenants and the apartment people.
Not really. We operate a building similar to this, and again, we're going back to the pre-screen, you're right, how does information get out to the people that are at the meeting? So we operate a building similar to this in the city of Poughkeepsie right now, where we have 136 apartments. We're required by the city's zoning code to build 1.3 parking spaces per unit. But we have surplus parking there. The reason is that when you build a building in a location like this, that you encourage walkability and you encourage people moving into this building or downsizing. They're moving from a larger house and possibly 2 cars to 1 car, and some people have no cars at all. They can walk to work, they work from home, they can walk to the grocery store, they can walk to the restaurants. So we find, the building that we operate now, 1.3 is more than enough. I mean, you're all welcome to drive by any time. There's surplus parking available right now. So by reserving 1 per unit, That still leaves 277 spaces available for the hourly and monthly parking. There's currently 137, I went and counted them 2 weeks ago. 137 parking spots in that lot, so we are more than doubling the amount of parking that is in that lot available to hourly and monthly parkers from where we are right now.
And the building that you have in Poughkeepsie that you currently have excess parking, is it the same demographics? Is it located in the same kind of uptown region where there's a lot of shops and restaurants and that kind of thing where people could be needing parking spaces like they do here in Kingston desperately?
It is located in an area, well, we didn't build a public parking component in that project. That project, we just built enough parking for the building itself.
Yeah.
It is located in an area where people can walk to some things. I think this area is more walkable, meaning the residents that live in this building are less likely, if possible, to need a second car, because there's more to walk to. In other words, our building in Poughkeepsie, you can't walk to a grocery store. You can walk to a restaurant, you can walk to the riverfront, you can walk to the hospital where a lot of people work. Train station you can walk to, but you can't walk to a grocery store and a drugstore and as many of the wonderful things that are in uptown. So I think, I feel very good about the parking. And the beautiful thing again is we have the flexibility. We had the partnership with the Jordan family and the Kingston Plaza to grow or shrink the amount of parking that the project needs. I've used this analogy a couple times. It's a church analogy. When you're building the church parking lot, you don't build it for Easter Sunday. So it doesn't make sense to build the biggest parking garage possible for the busiest possible day that Kingston could ever have. We have flexibility nearby. We've doubled the amount of public spaces plus taking care of our own spaces. There's no other project being built right now in uptown that's building its own parking. They're all relying on parking waivers and using public parking that exists, and we're increasing that public parking, which is the whole reason.
So that bridge is still gonna be there, so people won't have to kind of, they'll be able to walk easier through uptown.
Correct, and without getting into the whole presentation, but you're right, Orlando, we're building an ADA accessible bridge across Schwenk Drive to get people to connect the two districts, the Plaza District, shopping, retail, commerce, to the uptown retail, shopping, commerce
And
district.
parking.
And parking.
If someone doesn't wanna pay for parking, they can park down there if they can't find a spot for